what I thought to do was to take a few weeks and, I don't know what we're going to do in this year in general, ongoing, but maybe we could just do different topics like this that come up. But I wanted to take a few weeks and maybe in general to devote this year to all sorts of questions, real practical halacha l'maisa questions, ben adam l'chavero. But I don't mean ben adam l'chavero, like, a class talking about the mitzvahs of v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha and lashon hara and these types of things, but really getting into serious ben adam l'chavero questions that come up, in the professional world, in the world of neighbors, in the world of property rights, in the world of all of these areas where we a lot of us are part of this WhatsApp group, and that's really what prompted this, was this whole back and forth that went on last week. And the question is, not the question. I mean, the fact is that the halacha has a very very clear structure of halachos about how to deal with every type of situation that comes up. Sometimes there could be a dispute about what the halacha is, right? But the Torah is such that the halacha has what to say, about every situation, and there's a halachic way to deal with it, and that's even when it comes down to interpersonal issues and having problems with a person who you feel didn't do their work, even if there's no financial loss or something involved. But I'm just upset at them. I'm not happy with what they did. So there are halachos about all of these things, and unfortunately, for some reason, I don't know. It's not an area of halacha that's really fleshed out anywhere in any particular sefer. There's no, maybe there is nowadays, I don't know the truth, I shouldn't say that. Could be there's a whole sefer that's devoted to explaining all these things, but I've just felt like, over the years, there's a lot of halachos in this area that people are just not aware of, that people just don't have clarity on, in both directions, meaning a lot of things that people do by taking the law into their own hands and publicizing and saying things that are outright, averos and outright usher, and sometimes even can generate a financial liability. Whether the people know about it or not, it's that forbidden. And sometimes, on the contrary, we have rights to do things and for recourse that we don't even know that the halacha gives us. And people are very surprised by that as well, as far as the latitude that the halacha gives when it comes to defending myself or even protecting my property and things like this, like we're going to see. So what I wanted to do was to spend a few weeks going through a number of these halachos, really looking at some of the sources, looking at some of the the aspects of these things, and really trying to clarify halacha l'maisa. Sometimes we'll see that there's a machlokas and it's not so clear, or a question about what the halacha is, and we have to know where there's a shaila and where we should go and be looking into things and trying to get things clear. So what I want to start with is, we all know that there's an avera of nekama, taking revenge, right? Lo sikom and lo sitor. We're not allowed to take revenge. What's the difference between nekama and netira? Right? Are we familiar with this? There's two lavim in the Torah, lo sikom velo sitor, es b'nei amecha. There's nekama and netira. So the Gemara explains that nekama is when I act upon it. And the Gemara gives an example. A person doesn't, last week, I needed to borrow, an axe, and I went to Ruvain, and Ruvain said, no, I'm not going to lend it to you. And this week, Ruvain comes and asks me for the axe. I say, no, I'm not going to let you. That's nekama. Netira is where I'm bearing the grudge, even if it doesn't express itself. And the Gemara gives that same example. Last week, I went to Ruvain and said, can I borrow an axe? And Ruvain said no. And now Ruvain comes to me, and I give him the axe, but I say, I'm not like you, who didn't give the axe. I'm giving you the axe, and that shows that I'm really still holding on to it in my heart. So that's a lo saseh in the Torah. These are two lafim in the Torah, nekama, lo sikom, and lo sitor. Yep.
Are they mutually exclusive? If I'm taking revenge, I can't be holding a grudge?
No, not necessarily. Until it expresses itself in action, then it's netira. Once it turns in from netira to lo sikom, so then you're over lo sikom. But I don't think it undoes the netira from before. In other words, I think you can be over both of them. I don't think they're exclusive. Maybe at one time you're either acting or you're not acting. That could be at one time. That could be. I'm not sure. That could be. Yeah.
So we're going to discuss, like, if somebody, let's say, walks up to you and punches you.
Yeah. Exactly tonight. That's exactly what we're going to get to tonight. So we're familiar. I'm just starting from the starting point of that. We're familiar with this idea that we're not allowed to hit back. We're not allowed to take revenge. Let's say lo sikum lo sitor, and we have to understand what that means. What we're going to see over the course of these shurim, not tonight, but this is also one of the most misunderstood halachos of lo sikum, and according to many opinions, it doesn't apply to many scenarios where we do things to each other. I want to one point I want to try to bring out, I'm kind of putting this in parentheses, but a point I want to bring out from these shiurim, and this is something that I think is an important thing, is I think we're going to find that the Torah allows for a lot more expression of our issues and our tainos and our feelings than we think. In other words, the Torah allows us to be upset at other people about things. It's called ta'arumos. There's a halachic term called ta'arumos, and we're going to learn about this over these shurim, and we're going to learn the different things that the poskim say. What does ta'arumos mean? What is it? Does it let you do anything, or is it just something in your mind? We're going to see this. But there are many, many cases where the halacha allows for this thing called ta'arumos, and these are cases where sometimes we feel like we're a really bad person for feeling this way. I'll just give you like one example. It's a straight out Gemara in Yavam. Somebody doesn't invite me to their simcha, right? So I feel slighted by not having been invited. Zat the Gemara says that's a legitimate thing. If I've invited them to my smachot and now they didn't invite me to a simcha, right? So we're going to see, of course, there's mitzvahs to be done, the kafschus, and there's always a milah, there's always a mitzvah to rise above, and we'll talk about that also, right? But just that idea that that the Torah says, yeah, that's a legitimate cause of tarumos, that's a legitimate thing to be upset about, and we'll see what that means. So to me, I think it's very important to know. It's important because sometimes we have this picture of like of a malach, of the Chavetz Chaim or the Avos, and that's the expectation. And then we feel like, okay, well, if I'm naturally upset about something, so I'm obviously not there. So I'm not a good Jew. And then what's the difference if I'm saying lashon hara about it? What's the difference if I'm posting on Facebook about it, etc. And a big point that I would like to make in these shurim is that that's not the case. In other words, yes, there are places where the Torah gives us that latitude to feel and sometimes even to act based on the way that we were slighted. However, there's halachos about it, like everything, and there's parameters to it, like everything. And it's important for a person to know what they can and cannot do within that framework. Okay, so we know that there's this halacha of nekama and netira. You're not allowed to take revenge, but then we all also know that there's this Christian idea of turning the other cheek, right? I don't know where where it is, but somewhere in the New Testament there's like this idea that's taught that what the appropriate thing when a person slaps you is to turn the other cheek, meaning what? To be completely passive. And it's based on this idea of not taking revenge, right? The Torah tells us we should be. So is that a Jewish idea or not? Is that a Torah idea? And that's exactly what I want to start with. What Yaakov brought up. What somebody comes and hits you, does that mean that hitting them back is revenge? What's the appropriate way to do this? So I want to start with number one on this page is a very interesting source. This is a Sefer HaChinuch. A Sefer Chinuch, if we're familiar with, goes through the Taryag mitzvos. He goes through the 613 mitzvos, and he explains the mitzvah both from a halachic and also a hashkafic perspective. He explains what the shoresh of that mitzvah is, what the root is, and all different aspects of the mitzvah. So here we're addressing the mitzvah of onas dvarim. Onas dvarim is learned out of the same pasuk as onah of money, which is oppressing a person. Financially, you're not allowed to overcharge a person or pressure a person financially, but that's ona'ah. But then there's this concept of ona'as dvarim, which is its own lo saseh in the Torah. In the Sefer Chinuch Shin Lamed Ches, ona'as dvarim is anything that you do that upsets another person. Basically, anything that you do that distresses another person is ona'as dvarim. The Gemara gives a whole variety of examples. Scaring a person is ona'as dvarim. Causing a person to be frightened about something, just to play a joke. So okay, if the person's going to think it's funny in the end or not, I don't want to get into that halacha. I don't know if that's mutter or not. But let's say for you it's going to be funny and for them it's not. That's for sure asur to do. You're not allowed to scare a person. You're not allowed to embarrass a person, right? This is that avera that people are familiar with. You're not allowed to bring up a person's past if it's going to embarrass them in front of people. That's all these things are onaz dvarim. Anything shaming a person, cursing at a person. Nowadays, posting something negative on Facebook, anything along those lines, embarrassing a person. Anything of that nature is called ona'as dvarim, and it's a lo saseh in the Torah, one of the taryag mitzvos in the Torah.
Do other people have to be present for it to be activated, or can it be if someone insults someone privately, but that person gets upset and there's no one around to?
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with other people. It could make it worse if there are other people, but it's between me and that person himself. Just causing a person shame, just between the two of you. That's ona'as dvarim. That's an issur deraisa. Okay, but the Sefer Chinuch now is going to address what Yaakov brought up, which is, but does that mean that under any circumstances, anytime I say something negative about another person, anytime I shout or yell or say something mean at another person, that's onah? What if that person started with me? So that's what the Sefer Chinuch is going to start. We'll start with this point. V'ulam lefi adome, yeah, ein b'mashma she'im ba Yisrael echad v'hischil v'hirshia l'tzayir chaveru b'dvarim haroyim. It's not included, ein b'mashma, it's not included in this Aveira of Onah that if one person started v'hirshia and was wicked, l'tzayir chaveru b'dvarim haroyim, and he started up with his friend, he started, trash talking and putting him down and making fun of him and his family. Shelo ya'aneu hashomea, that the listener shouldn't answer, meaning he's saying a double negative. It's not onah's dvarim. It's not part of this that you have to not answer. Meaning you're allowed to answer. You're allowed to answer back. And look what he says here. It's impossible. Do you want to answer it? I think maybe he's trying to find this, because I told him 19 instead of 18. And he's saying that onah's dvarim, it's not included in onah, is not answering back to the person. So let's look again at the underlined section. It's impossible for a person to be like a rock that has nobody moves it, right? Like a rock just sits there. You can insult and yell and scream. It doesn't have an effect. But a person is not like that. And not only that, a person's natural tendency is to feel like they have to defend themselves. If they're quiet, maybe the people around them are going to think that it's true what this person is saying about me. And a person has a natural tendency to defend themselves. Ube'emes lo tetzave haTorah. Look carefully what he says here. Lios ha'adam ke'evan shotek lemacharfav kemo lemavarchav. The Torah does not demand, the Torah does not expect from a person to be like a stone that is silent to those who curse him, like those who bless him. Right? In other words, he's saying like this: the Isra of Onah's Dvarim, it does not include a person yelling back at another person, or cursing back, or texting back, or whatever that is. But what we're seeing here, the response, right? We're seeing here, and we're going to see how this develops in the halacha. We'll have to see, a few sources about this. But what we're seeing here is that the Sefer Chinuch says that when it comes to insults, right? That's the core issue of Onah's Dvarim. When it comes to insults, the natural tendency of a person. Now, obviously, we're going to see that there's what to work on over here. But the natural base tendency of a person is to insult back, to shoot back an insult when they are insulted, and that is not an Aveira. That is not Onah's Dvarim. Onah's Dvarim is starting up with the person, afflicting a person verbally in any other way. But when you're responding, when a person is responding, that's not. And look what he says more here. We shouldn't be the ones that start up. We shouldn't be the ones that are like cheppering a person. If you don't start up with people, they won't start up with you. Except for the crazy people, you always have crazy people in any community. And those people you shouldn't pay attention to. So that's what he says. So he's saying the idea is when it comes to the Isser of Onah, when it comes to the Isser of insulting another person, that does not apply when it comes to responding. Yeah. Now, skip. Yeah, no, let's see further here. Yeah, but let's say the guy, he pushes you to answer. He's saying it's still not wise for you to get angry. It's not wise for you to get worked up with the person. Quoting a pasuk, fools get worked up in anger. Right. So even if you are going to answer a person and you're going to get involved, don't let yourself get worked up. Don't pay so much attention. Now look what he says here. How do we know this? How do we know that it's mutter to respond? How do we know that the Torah doesn't expect us to? Maybe we should, right? Don't we picture the Chavetz Chaim? The people came to his store and stole something, and he ran out into the street saying "Amochel," right? Isn't that how do we know? Maybe the Torah does expect that.
Allows himself to be cursed.
People cursing at him, right? So how do we know? So look what he says here. He says something fascinating. Look what he says over here. It's very interesting. He brings in the halacha of a rodef, right? The halacha of a person who's coming to get me, so I'm allowed to get him first. Right? What do you see from that halacha? You see the concept over there is that the Torah does not expect the person just to take it. The Torah does not expect the person just to stand by, right? Because what's the dynamic of that halacha? It's a very interesting thing. Why is it that a person, the Torah says, somebody who sneaks into my house at night, right, into a person's house at night, ein lo damim, right? You have a right to kill him. Now, why do you have a right to kill him? He's just breaking into the house. Yeah, because you have a right to stand up for your money. And when you stand up for your money, chances are he's going to try to kill you for the money, and therefore you have already a right to kill him, right? This whole dynamic the Torah assumes into the situation. So that's what he's saying here. But why? Maybe I have to just let him take my money. And this is even on Shabbos. This is a very interesting thing. I mean, this for another time we can get into this, but it's a very interesting, the whole sugi about this in Hilchos Shabbos, because this halacha applies even on Shabbos. I'm allowed to be Mechal Shabbos to kill a person who sneaks into my house. And the Magen Avram already raises the question, well, why? Well, yeah, killing, ritzicha, or moving things, anything, any malacha I'm allowed to do, that, fire, whatever it is. But the Magen Avram says, well, wait, maybe I should just have to stand and let him take my money and not be Mechal Shabbos, right? Don't I have to spend money to not be Mechal Shabbos? So he deals with this, right? How could that be? I have to spend money to not be Mechal Shabbos, but I'm allowed to protect my money and I'm allowed to be Mechal Shabbos, killing a person doing it, right? That's what the Torah says.
If there's a little fire breaks out in your house,
You're not allowed to put it out, right? Very good. Okay, but here you go. But a guy put it in. Very good. So Magen Avraham speaks out. He speaks out this yesod, which is like just there's like such a there's certain fundamental human rights or Torah, rights that the Torah grants a person, and that is I don't have to just stand by and let myself be hurt, either physically or even financially. And that even to the point of killing a person, right? I don't have to let a person take my money, and I'm allowed to stand up for it and even kill him to stop him from doing it. And so he says, you see from this concept that the Torah does not demand that a person just take it, that turning the other cheek is not what the Torah says. Ki yesh lo reshus lihinotzel miyado. He has a right to save himself from this person. Ukamo kain midivrei piu asher malei miramos v'toch. And so too, when it comes to speech, when a person is cursing me out and saying all these things, b'chol davar shu yachol linotzel mimenu, if I'm able to save myself from him this way. Okay.
Even if it escalates beyond verbal into pure, full-on physical, and then you've got a real problem.
Well, no, not necessarily, because the escalation from verbal to physical, that's not a jump that's allowed. We'll see the Shulchan Aruch will address this, but that you can't, if.
No, but what if the activator of the honest Devarim, he starts it, you come back with your no honest Devarim because you're qualified, you're allowed to do it, and the next thing you know, the fists are flying everywhere.
Okay, so that's why it's a good idea to avoid it. That's what he says. He's not encouraging us to fight with people and to do this.
Right.
All he's saying is what the Torah allows for. Okay, but now he clarifies this, and this is like I would say for us the most important paragraph in terms of all of this is true, and we're gonna go back to all this. We're gonna see this now in the Shulchan Aruch, and we'll see this clearly where this comes from. However, we're here to work on our midos, right? We're here to try to work on ourselves and to try to not be those people that give in to that base animal instinct of lashing back out. So that's what he addresses now. V'ulam yesh kat mibnei adam. Yeah, there is a group of people she'ola chasidusam kol kach, that their piety, right, their goodness is so great. Shelo yirtzu lahachnes atzmam b'horazu lahoshiv cherufim davar. They don't use this heter. They don't use this. Again, the Torah is telling us. I understand. Hashem's telling. I understand if a person can't hold themselves back and they lash out and they return fire. So returning fire is not going to be an avera, right? But a person who can control himself, right, it's a kadosh yomer lo. That's what the Torah wants from us. It doesn't demand it. It's not expecting us on the base level to just take it. Yeah, but he's going to tell us now a very, very high madrega, right? A person who's able to do that and not to return, that's a very high madrega. Now let's take a look. This is a nice thing. They don't want to use this heter. Shelo yirtzu lahachdes atzmam b'horazu lahashem chavim v'darim. Pen yigbar aleya makas, because they don't want this midah of kas to take hold of them and grow on them. V'yispashtu be'inyan yosim midai, and it's going to take hold, and that's what happens. Sometimes you get into a machlokas, you get into an argument, and it starts out the shem shemayim, you're trying to prove a point, but then once you get worked up and the adrenaline kicks in, and you get so then you could lose it. So people don't want to do this at all. And look what he says here, Va'aleim amru zechronim levracha. And on these people it says, Hane'elavim ve'enam olvim, right? A very, very powerful chazal about this. The Chavetz Chaim brings this in many places. Hane'elavim ve'enam olvim. Those people that are insulted and they don't insult back. Shomim cherpasam ve'enam meshivim. They hear their shame and they don't respond. Aleim akasav omer ve'oavav katzeis Hashemesh b'gvuraso. Right, so the Chazal tell us there's a pasuk, those who love Hashem, so they come out like with the power of the sun. In other words, this midah, the midah of being able to take it and not respond and just be okay and go on and let it slide and not shoot back. So that's a very, very high madrega. That's this
verbally or physically?
Oh, so let's see. Well, certainly we're not talking about not defending yourself. We're not talking about letting yourself be physically hurt or overrun, God forbid, or anything like that. We're talking here, certainly verbally is what he's talking about here. Verbally in terms of a person, or let's say if a person slaps somebody in the face, but clearly they're not about to launch a full-on assault to do anything more. So to take that and say, okay, wow, that was very insulting and painful, but I'm not going to respond in kind, even though the Torah lets me. So that's a very, very high madrega. That's a person who is controlling their midos, right? That's already what we're looking at the Chavetz Chaim and these people that are developed and are not going to go ahead and fight back and get into a whole verbal, spat on WhatsApp, etc. They're not going to do it because they're developed in their midos. So I just want to make a point about this for a second, because this is not going to be the focus, right? The focus of this year is what we are allowed to do, not on developing our more angelic, like traits, which is what we should be working on. That's for the Musar shir, the Tanya shir, whatever. But I want to go back to the halacha in a second. But I saw once a beautiful, beautiful idea from Rav Shimon Schwab, Zichrono Levracha, on this Chazal. The beautiful Chazal. The Chazal say like this. There's one piece of it that's missing in the Sefer Chidduch. It says, "Hane'elavim ve'enam olvim." Again, a person who is ne'elav, a person who is shamed and doesn't shame in response. Shomim cherpasim ve'en meshivim. They hear their insult and they don't respond. The next line is usmeichim b'yasurim, and they are happy when Hashem afflicts them. Then it says, "Aleim akasav omer va'oavav katzeis Hashemesh b'gvuraso." So Rav Shimon Schwab says such a beautiful thing. As I say on tefillah, he has like a siddur, Rav Shimon Schwab, that he goes through the whole siddur and has beautiful insights the whole way through. So he says this. He says that we daven for this every single day, 3 times a day. He says this is exactly the tefillah of Elokai Nitzor was modeled after this. He said, look, think about it. Ne'elavim ve'enam olvim. I'm insulted and I don't insult back. So what's that? Elokai nitzor l'shoni mira usvasai medaber mirma. Stop me from talking badly, right? What's the next one? Shomim cherpasan ve'in meshivim. They don't even respond at all, right? V'nafshi sidom l'cholti. V'lim kalalai nafshi sidom. Let me be silent, right? That's ein meshivim. I don't even respond. And that's what smeichim b'yasurim. Smeichim b'yasurim is a person who says, everything's min hashamayim. Hashem, I know you're doing this to me. It's not this other person. So that's v'nafshi kefar l'koltia. Hashem, I know that it's not what a beautiful thing. He says every day we're davening for these midos. We're davening that we should, even though we're going to learn everything now, what's mutter to do. Yeah, but we daven Hashem. Let me develop myself. Let me elevate myself. That I'm not one of those people that relies on these things, and I'm a more developed human being. Okay, beautiful tefillah. But anyway, so getting back to this, what we're seeing here is a fundamental idea, a fundamental, a base yesod, that the Torah has certain expectations, of a person, and that does not extend to a person taking either physical abuse or verbal abuse and not responding. Now, the real core of this, which we see, and the Rishonim point to this. We don't have to go through the psukim now. But in number 2 is really the halacha of a goel hadam, right? If you read the psukim of a goel hadam, the redeemer whose relative gets killed, it's exactly what the pasuk tells us. Yeah, that what's going to happen? Ki yecham levavo, he's going to be fired up. I'm reading in pasuk vav, pen yirdov goel hadam acharei rotzech ki yecham levavo v'hisigo ki yir be'aderech v'yiko nefesh v'lo ein mishpat maves. Yeah, right? Hashem tells us we don't hold this guy accountable even for murder, right? Because he's so worked up, he's so fired up about what this person did, right? So nowadays, to our modern sensitivities, these things, it sounds barbaric and this type of thing. Yeah, but this concept of the Torah understanding and taking into perspective, and therefore doing what it can to protect the person. To protect the murderer, but also the halacha protects the family members. They're not chayiv misa if they go and they kill this goel hadam, right? Even murder, the Torah allows for a person. So what we have to understand about this.
What if the goel hadam is murdered by the original murderer?
He's allowed to. They're a rodef. In other words, he's allowed to kill. If he kills them,
He has a double.
no, he has to run to the Ir Miklat and save himself. But if they catch him, but he's faster on the draw and he kills them, so he's not accountable for that, because for him they're a rodef. They're a rodef for him, right? That's the halacha is clear about that. He has a right to defend himself. He doesn't have to.
So it's the Ir Miklat that brings the rodef, the Goel Adam. It stops him. It's almost like
it's a sanctuary city.
It's like I'm going above your midas.
Well, the Torah offers him protection. The Torah understands that this person wants to kill him and has a right to kill him, but we offer protection to the guy also.
It's one of the wildest.
Yeah, it's a very. But that's the idea. The idea is based again on this concept that the Torah doesn't have angelic expectations of a person. It understands a person's natural reaction and way of reacting to these things. Is to respond, is to be quiet. But again, what the point of these shiurim is to try to get an understanding about what are the parameters of that, and when and how and under what circumstances. Okay, so let's take a look now. In the Shulchan Aruch itself. We'll start with Seif Vav. This is Tafchaf Aleph. This is like the halachos of Hilchos Achovel B'Chavero. All the different halachos of causing damage. One person to the next. So let's just see what the basics are. Some of us may be familiar with this, but we'll look it over again anyway. But we're looking here about circumstances under which people hit it. What are they accountable for? Okay, so we have this concept in halacha of chamisha dvarim, right? So what is this? This idea? I feel like we covered this once in Shurim in the past. I don't know. Somehow we went through this. What's the idea of chamisha dvarim? Is nezek, tsar, ripui, sheves, and boshes, right? These are 5 things that if a person damages another person, they have to pay for. Nezek is the physical damage that was done. Tsar is paying back for the pain. Ripui is paying back for the medical fees. Sheves is paying back for lost wages for work. And boshes is if it's an embarrassing wound or if it's an embarrassing injury. So we he has to get paid back compensation for that, right? So this is how a person, right, in the lawsuits society that we live in with these $1 million lawsuits. So it could be that based in some of those would be true. If it's a terrible thing and a person really was damaged terribly and it's worth lots of money. But that's the halacha. A person is chayev with these 5 things. Yeah, vafilu nichnas chaveru l'reshuso shelo b'reshus v'chobo v'votzio chayev, right? And even if a person comes into my property without permission, right? And I want to take him out of my property, and I hurt him in the process, I have to pay. I have permission to get him out. If I have a way of physically removing him without harming him, so I'm allowed to do that, but I have no reshus to harm him. Right? So this is a halacha that we have, and I think this is like in American laws like this also.
A minute ago we said you'd have to kill somebody who's got into your property.
No, that's like above machteres. But let's say this is, a friend comes over and we get into an argument, and I say, you know what, get out of my house. I don't want you here anymore. Not a person who sneaks in and is trying to chase me. But I recently just saw an email about this, a discussion about like what can you do legally to a car that blocks your driveway, and you can't do anything to your car. You can call them and they get it towed, but if you break a window or slash a tire or do something, so you have to pay for that. You're not allowed to do something like that, to get the car out of the driveway. So same thing, so you're allowed to get you could tow the car, you can move it away, that you could do, but you can't just smash it for no reason. So over here also, you can remove the guy from the house, but you're not allowed to beat him up. Okay, avalim hu misarev bo ve'ena rotza lates. But let's say he insists and he stays. Yesh omrim sheyesh lo reshus hafilu lachbo lo kadei lotzio. So here there's already an opinion that says that the person is going to be insistent, and if I'm going to, the only way to get him out is to rough him up and to move him out. So then there's one opinion that says you're allowed to. It says the Ramah v'chein mi sheyesh lo misharis v'choshesh yignov lo yuchol lotzio kodem zman aschirus v'misarev yuchol akosu ad sheyetze. He says same thing if you have like a worker, a helper in your house. And you're worried that he's stealing, and you're choshesh that he's stealing, so you're allowed to fire him before his term is up, And the same thing, you're allowed to physically remove him. I don't think we have this nowadays so much, although, you can have this, I don't know, nowadays you have to call the police, if somebody was in your house and they didn't want to leave. Okay, but what we see from here, we're starting to see the basic idea in terms of, when and how the halacha allows for causing damage. But now let's see the case that we were talking about of two people hitting one another, one starting, hitting back, these types of things. So let's take a look at number 4. Shnayim shechavlu zeh b'zeh. So you have two people now that are attacking each other. Im chaval ha'acher b'chaveiro yoser mamash shechaval bohu. So now at the end of the day, one guy has, is missing he's got 2 black eyes and he's missing 4 teeth, and the other guy's got 1 black eye and is only missing 1 tooth, right? So this guy has got a black eye and 3 teeth, more damage than him, right? That's the the inequity of this fight. Yeah, mishalem lo b'moser nezek shalem. So he has to pay the difference, right? In other words, in the situation is going to explain in a second.
Well,
this is when they started together. Yeah, there's a fight. They damaged each other. So if only one person hurt the other person, he would have to pay. But in this case, the damage that they caused to each other cancels out. But whatever the stronger guy is going to end up paying at the end, because he did more damage than the other guy. Okay. But this is only if they started together at the same time. Let's say like in a set fight, they made up to fight about something, or they started with each other right away, right? Yeah, they made a duel, right? What is it called? Something solitary combat, single combat. They used to have these things, right? With the whole army, they would just like David HaMelech and Goliath. That's what they used to do. The whole army, instead of having so many people die for the whole army, they would say just let 2 people fight, and whoever wins wins. Okay. Okay. That's only if they started together. Right? Or if it's like as if they started immediately at the same time. Avalim hischil ha'echad. If one, which we'll see in the second achronim on this previous thing. Avalim hischil ha'echad. If one person started up, hasheni patur, then the second one is patur completely. The second one is off the hook. Sheyesh lo reshus l'sheni lachbal bo kedei lahatzil atzmo. Yeah, because he has a right to hit the other guy in order to save himself. Now let's see for a second here. No, okay, we don't need to say it now. Yeah, he has permission to save it. Now these words of kedei lahatzil atzmo, so that seems to say like we're talking about a rodef. It seems to be like we're talking about a situation where, if I'm not going to fight back, so then I'm going to be robbed or I'm going to be beat up or something is going to happen. But it doesn't seem to be saying the same thing like we saw before in the Sefer HaChinuch, right? In other words, the Sefer HaChinuch was operating with an idea of like the Torah expects that I'm going to fight back, and therefore I'm not going to be accountable, right? But the Shulchan Aruch here throws in these words, Kedei lahatzil atzmo, that makes it sound like it's only something that's permissible in self-defense. And it's not permissible just if I'm fighting back, and if it can't be shown that there is self-defense, so then a person wouldn't be chayiv. But then look at the next few words. This is the Ramah here. The Ramah comes in and adds these words. V'chein hu le'inyan gidufim ubiyushim. And so too when it comes to verbal assault, when it comes to shaming a person and mocking a person, that's what gidufim biyushim is, shaming and insults. It's the same thing. Hamaschil pareya haknas. The one who starts is the one who's going to have to pay, right? In the olden days, there would be like a fine, there would be a knas that a person would have to pay for insulting a person, like slander or libel, these types of things. But the Ramah says that, the halacha is that's only the one who started has to pay. But again, just like when it comes to physical fighting, the person who started has to pay, and the one who fights back is patur. So the Ramah says so too when it comes to verbal fighting. And the Achronim say, so you see based on this Ramah, that it has nothing to do with self-defense. There's no such thing as self-defense when it comes to biyushim and gidufim. That's just, mocking a person and, making fun of them and these types of things. So if the Ramah is applying this here, so we see that the Ramah understands this halacha like the Sefer HaChinuch, right? That it's not an inyan of self-defense, it's an inyan of, go ahead.
I was going to say, you could say it's like possibly like a long-term self-defense. Like if somebody hits you, and you hit them worse, it's a deterrent for other people to start up with you. And so too, if somebody insults you, even though, you're insulting them back is not going to protect you from his insults now, it might protect you in the long run from people coming up and insulting you because they know that you're not just going to ignore it.
I hear what you're saying. They're saying that there's an element of defending myself from those, from the insults in the future,
Right,
from
the future of the
responding. Okay, I hear that. We'll see in Achronim in a second. I hear that.
But you also said earlier that in case the other people shouldn't come to believe what the other guy's saying, you defend yourself that way.
Right, also. So in the Sefer Chinuch, it's interesting, you're going back to, in that paragraph of the Sefer Chinuch, when he gives a number of reasons of why it's okay to respond, so he mentions, this idea of self-defense and that people shouldn't accept that it's the same thing. But I don't know if that's so true when it comes to like Gidufim and Biyushim. If somebody's like saying, mocking things, that, I don't know that there's an Indian there of like, so if I mock him back, then people will see that I'm really not, a moron, the son of a moron. I don't know if it comes out that way when it comes to this. If you have that thing, But I think the Achronim do learn it this way. That the Ramah they use this Ramah together with that Sefer HaChinuch, meaning that same idea that the Sefer HaChinuch is clearly spelling out that it's not just self-defense, that the Torah doesn't expect a person just to be silent about it. So they say that the Ramah is referring to this also. But I wanted to see over here. There's an interesting aspect of this in the Achronim. Talk about this 1 second. So here's just one interesting. If you look on the just flip the page over, so you see Oz Dalid in the Sma. So this is just an interesting thing, like what we were saying before about what about escalation. How does that work in terms of verbal escalation? Am I only allowed to insult in the same realm of insult that he insulted me, and how does that work? So look at this. It's very interesting here. V'cheinu le'inyan gidufim v'chasav maharam merizbork dine boshes. Ruvain ta'an al Shimon shekaru mamzer. Right, Ruvain. What's the case here? Ruvain says Shimon came and called me a mamzer. V'Shimon omer shemitchila lachash lo ba'azno shu mamzer. Yeah, but no, I didn't start. He started, with me. He whispered first, but he said it quietly. But that got me angry. L'chein nisrages v'amar l'chein. That's why he got angry. He said, "Well, I'm the mamzer. You're the mamzer." But he said it out loud. So umdana demuchachu keven shikaru pito mamzer vadaya emesito ad kan lashono. So he says that's an acceptable defense. It's an acceptable defense. In other words, why else did he all of a sudden shout mamzer at him unless there was something that started it beforehand? But what you see from here also is that an escalation within the context of what's understandable is also understandable, right? In other words, it's not exactly right. What's the word that everyone misunderstands? Whenever they criticize Israel. Proportionality is what they said, right? Everyone misunderstands what it really means, and right, if they're throwing rocks, and then we should only be able to throw rocks. But that's not what it means at all. It's proportional to what's necessary to get it done. So it's like so over here, it's not if he whispered at me, I don't have to control myself and only whisper back. Whatever is considered to be the norm, that's what he's saying over here. You don't even have to take a shvua. You don't have to even take a shvu about this in Beis Din, when it comes to this. Okay, this idea that we see in the Ramah, this idea that a person is allowed to defend himself. I wanted to say I'll bring it next week from the Sefer Chavetz Chaim. They bring a proof here from one of the passages in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim that the Sefer Chavetz Chaim learns this way lahalacha, that he accepts this lahalacha because he discusses in one place and explains that you can't apply this to lashon hara. Like let's say if somebody spoke lashon hara about me, so then I'm allowed to go back and speak lashon hara about him. It's in anybody familiar with the Sefer? So in the very beginning of the second parak in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim, there's a very very long Ber Maim Chaim discussing the whole inyan of apei tlasa, of lashon hara in front of three people. Anyway, so one of the things that the Chavetz Chaim addresses there is he brings up this choshen mishpat, this halacha that we're learning right here, and he says. It doesn't apply to lashon hara. You can't say that somebody spoke lashon hara about me, so I'm allowed to go and speak lashon hara about him. And in the context, he says why. So he explains this halacha, and in so doing, we have to address the idea that we began with. What happened to nekama, right? What happened to so what is nekama? What's lo sikom and lo sitor? If it's taking revenge is a lo saseh in the Torah, but we're saying here fighting back, hitting back, cursing back. So what's the dividing line? When is it?
Revenge.
Oh, so what's the dividing line? What's the halacha? What's mutter? What's aser then?
Probably when there's a delay.
Okay, what delay? What is the?
the situation's gone.
Okay, so what do you want to say something? You look like you want to say.
No, I think I was agreeing with.
They say the same thing. So they say like this: as long as a person is heated up, that's they say. As long as a person is hot, and they deal with this. There's a lot of achronim about this. I don't know if we have time to go see it inside. On this where it says this lashon of miyad. Gam hu miyad v'chavol bo. He goes back immediately. So there's a big deal here in the Achronim. The Vilna Gaon says it's a Tau Sofer. It doesn't belong there because the idea is not whether it's immediate or not. The idea is whether the person is like in the heat of the initial insult, in the heat of the initial patch, or not. So as long as a person is in that mode, in that initial state of, before there's a break and before there's a cooling down period, so that's where these halachos apply. That's where a person is, allowed to fight back and hit back and, yell back and these types of things. But once a person has had time to cool off, or once there's been a separation, and it's done, so now it moves into nekama. Now a person has a situation of, a potential of sinna, right? Now it's moving into a different side. We had this encounter, right? The encounter happened. Now sometimes after the encounter, you yell it out, you shout it out, and now you feel better, and you're friends, and you part as friends. Yeah, but in a situation where that doesn't happen, and now you've moved away from each other, you fought it out, now you've moved away from each other, so now you're moving into the territory of nekama. Now we're moving into the time where anything I do now that is relating back to what happened then, any action that I do now that is, trying to get him back or to avenge him for what he did then, not recouping losses, that's a separate thing. We'll see that, maybe probably next week, but not talking about recouping a loss, but an act of vengeance, an act of, well, you did that, I'm going to show you. So that now is an act of nekama. That becomes lo saseh in the Torah of nekama.
What if there was no way to deal with the situation there and then? The guy who activated the situation did a runner and you didn't see him for 3 years.
Yeah, but once a person is cooled down, that's not in the heat of the moment anymore. That's not.
He never was giving.
Okay, so I don't know. That's for Hashem to decide. I don't know. So that's only Hashem can know. That's only for Hashem to be able to judge a person.
Someone bullied someone.
I hear now he gets triggered. I hear. I don't know.
Later, he's like, that's the guy.
I hear that. I don't know. So it could be. It could be that that's for Hashem to know. I don't know. I hear that. It could be. Maybe that, like you see, like we saw here, there's an umdana. It doesn't make sense unless you need it. I don't know. I couldn't. That's why you need a Beis Din to Pascal Shai like that. But I hear. But I once spoke about this one of my rebbeim, Rabbi Shmuel Irons in Detroit, and he said this is like a funny halacha because he said it's almost like a halacha that if you can think about it, then it doesn't really apply to you. You know what I mean? Like he said, if you.
And then I'm thinking about after they get offended, I'm thinking, hold on, wait.
Exactly. So he said, then you're already not heated up. Exactly. That's what he said. He said this is really like it's only a halacha like almost after the fact. In other words, if you exactly, it's like if you're thinking about doing this already, so then you should already be controlling yourself and not you're not heated up. The idea is if a person is like in the heat of the moment they say it, and then
So ignorance is bliss in that situation.
it's not bliss, but it's understandable. But look, this happens to all sorts of people. This happens. Even somebody cuts you off in traffic and you honk in frustration or say something. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily an avera. That's the idea. That's like understandable. But if if somebody cuts you off and then a few minutes later you have the opportunity to cut them off just because, so that might be nakama already. That's not. That's not the.
What's the halacha? How should we behave? Should we control ourselves? Or should we
For sure, no, for sure. Again, I'm not talking about physical. Physically, I'm not getting into that now. We'll talk about that more next week in terms of physically defending property and using physical violence to get back. We'll talk about that more next week. But when it comes to verbally, for sure, that's love and venom ovim. That's a very very high madrega.
So that's like the
No, to me, it's chasidus, not the halacha. The halacha doesn't demand it. It doesn't demand it. But it's.
if you don't hold by that, then okay, right?
Well, I don't know what do you mean hold by that. There's no such thing as hold and not hold. It's
I had an argument with my neighbor, okay?
yeah.
About education, like kids, like educated kids. So he said that he told his kids is that if someone in the kindergarten is hitting them, then they have to eat them harder,
I was about to talk about this right now. I was going to talk about this right now.
Like show them that they should never touch you.
Oh, very good. Okay,
And I
so.
said, no, I mean, what do you teach your kids?
Okay, so you're raising a very good point. So, excellent.
That's the only option,
Excellent. Okay, so this is definitely a cultural thing. But one thing I want to just make very clear, I was about to raise this point. One thing is for sure, and if you have a kid, let's say your own kids, with each other, or in the playground or any of these things, and a different kid starts up with my kid, and my kid hits back. So I'm not allowed to tell them that's nekama, it's asur. You can't tell them that. Now, if you want to be mechanech your kid to be passive or to be aggressive. So I think I've heard different rabbanim say different things. I don't think there's a psak. I think it probably depends on the kid, depends on the circumstances, depends on the culture. And certainly, in America, it's not mekubal to hit back. Over here, it's much more mekubal, to be mechanech to hit back. It's like, it's like that. But one thing is for sure, it's wrong to tell them it's usher. And that, and when it comes to kids insulting each other or things like this, if it's clear that one kid started and the other kid is fighting back, so you could tell them, come to mommy and this, but I think it's wrong to tell them that that's usher to do or wrong to do or nevera, because it's not. The Torah lets you do it. For sure you could tell the kids if you want to work on your midos and try to grow and try to elevate yourself, and they'll love him v'im. So that's a great midah to work towards, and it's also very practical. I'm saying, read Dale Carnegie. The whole book is about this, about not responding and reacting because it's much more practical. It makes more sense. Yeah.
I was curious in terms of, you said like the initial heat of the moment. So are you allowed to like dislike or hate that person?
So that's already taruma. So that we're going to get into in these shurim about like okay. So now after the fact, the person did something to me. I didn't respond. I did. So now what do I do with the fact that the person did this?
Because I'm thinking that moment can sometimes be like, let's say your neighbor across the street. You have a fight with him and he decides to get at you. He hangs up a swastika. Right, it's just there. It's not like something he says and it goes away.
Right.
Or there are things people can do, that just especially when you're talking about neighbors, like or anything.
Ongoing.
Like that, it's just ongoing. Like they're always like it's just in your face and it's always there, and you're always, I guess, always in that situation where I guess you could be hot about it.
So we'll see. We'll see that there's a whole list of about 7 different scenarios that Chazal give for this concept of tarumos. And each one is not just a case, it's a case that represents many different things. Like I said before, inviting and not inviting. Another one is a worker that stops in the middle of a job. So he's allowed to do that. Al pi halacha, it's not, there's no financial hold, but you're allowed to have tarumos on him, right? You're allowed to be upset at him, right? It says it in the Shulchan Aruch, those words, yesh lo alav, ein lo alav ela tarumos. Right, that's what the lashon is. You have no financial recourse, but you have tarumos on him. So we're going to deal with that, not tonight. We'll deal with it about all these cases and what does it mean to have tarumos. And according to some, it lets you even speak lashon hara. Right, according to others, they say chas v'shalom you can't speak lashon hara. It just means it lets you dislike them inside, which otherwise is sinas chinam. But if it's not chinam and it's tarumos, then it's not nevera to have that feeling. So I want to spend the whole night on this, but I hold this is like one of the most important halachos that nobody knows. These halachos of tarumos. That so many times we feel like we're bad people or bad Jews or this because we naturally remain upset at people, and many times it's not us, or it's really where the halacha's on our side. Especially if the person is, like you're saying, ongoing and unrepentant and these types of things. So we'll see that.
Do all these halachas apply to goyim as well?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. That's the halachos that they have to us. In other words, any halachos that are relating to theft or stealing or tricking or lying and those types of things are reciprocal, but the halachos that they don't have, to us, we don't have to them.